Now, this is going to be a slightly different video than I normally do because a lot of people who have commented on the video why Rolex is dying or why AP is dying tend to disregard every aspect of common sense. So this is just me talking to you. Now, you can choose to listen or choose not to listen. I'm sitting here enjoying a cigar. I haven't had one in a while. Normally I do pipes, but I thought I'd have a smoke and have a discussion. So the premise of why Rolex is dying or why Rolex is dead, and I'll leave a card up here, was simply because there's a misunderstanding that people have of where Rolex is going. Now, people think that just because Rolex has acquired Bucaros, 1,000 authorized dealers of their own, they think that in no way is Rolex actually dying. In fact, they're at the peak and pinnacle, and they'll always stay there at the top of Olympus, like Zeus. And I just completely disagree with that. Now, why do I disagree with that? That's really the thing. Why do I disagree? Why do I still think that Rolex is going to die? Well, though they are at their peak and they do have the best branding in the world and their watches are well known. I own a Rolex Submariner. I'll never get rid of it because I could never afford one again. And also, that Rolex Submariner was purchased right after deployment to Baghdad. So to me, it was sentimental in the fact that the way Rolex was in the past was you would work your ass off and you would have your first child, you'd buy a nice watch, you'd retire, you'd buy a nice watch, and normally it'd be a Rolex, right? A Rolex Datejust, right? If you retire, that gold watch, that pinnacle of, hey, I made it finally in my life. Now I can, have some of those creature comforts. And Rolex has taken themselves away from that market and have tried to put themselves on only the upper, higher end market out there. Now, some people would say, well, Rolex is a great watch brand. And I always argue that they are a mediocre watch brand. They're not the best watches in the world. And if they didn't have a Rolex crown on them, then they would be maybe $1,000. So why, even though Rolex is at their pinnacle, even though they're the top, everybody knows who they are, they're the top G, as Andrew Tate would say, why do I think they're going to die? Well, right now, Rolex has the ability to say that just because an authorized dealer snubs you, laughs at you because you want to buy a ladies' Datejust, or the pure fact that you want to buy one of their sports watches, and they laugh and snub their nose at you and basically shoo you out of their authorized dealer because you're not good enough, Rolex can say that I didn't know that the authorized dealer was doing that. They could claim ignorance and say, well, that's not what we want. Well, now that they've had their own authorized dealers, now that they've purchased 1,000 authorized dealers, it'll be from manufacturer to their authorized dealer. And why I think this was a great thing for Rolex to do, if their authorized dealers do what the authorized dealers of today are doing, then people are going to know that it's not just the authorized dealers who are sticking that middle finger up at them because they're not good enough to buy their watches. But now they're going to know it's Rolex themselves sticking up their middle finger at their potential customers. And as much as people want to disregard the average everyday Joe who works hard to buy the Rolex, that's a huge portion of their sales. So when Rolex now takes over completely their authorized dealers and someone goes in to buy a Rolex and they understand that this is Rolex who just gave me the bird, they're going to start turning off a lot of people. And the biggest growth is name recognition. The biggest failure is customer service with that name recognition. And I'm telling you that if Rolex continues down the path of sticking that bird up and sticking their nose up at their potential customers, especially when it's coming from their own authorized dealer, I'm telling you, it's going to be the beginning of their end. And that was my point in that video. My point in the video was every business has a pinnacle and peak. There are plenty of businesses out there who were at the top. They were the best of the market share, and then they did something, and then they failed, and they're no longer anymore. I'm not saying Rolex is going to die tomorrow, but I am saying that they better be careful and tread lightly with their new purchase, and they better treat their customers just a little bit better, because Rolex is not Richard Mille. Rolex is not Audemars Piguet. Rolex will never be one of the Trinities. Neither will Richard Mille, maybe. But I know Rolex will never be a holy trinity, because Rolex is still the every man's watch. I've always called them, they are the poor man's rich watch. And I say that because the poor man or the middle class man thinks Rolex is the best. And when you get into the watch industry, the watch world, you know that Rolex is at most a BMW or a Lexus. It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Lamborghini. They don't decorate their movements. Their workhorse movements charged at an astronomical markup just because of the crown. It doesn't make them any good. And you can agree to disagree, but I would love to hear your disagreements or agreements in the comments below. Let me know what you guys really think. I think that, again, Rolex can play stupid with the authorized dealers of today, and people understand that. If I go into Ben Bridge and they say I can't buy a Rolex, or I go into another authorized dealer and they say I can't buy a Rolex, then I associate not buying a Rolex with that authorized dealer. But when it's straight from manufacturer to a Rolex authorized dealer, now I associate it with Rolex. And if they laugh at me and they laugh me out of their store, well, then that's Rolex. And they just lost not just me, but they lost every potential customer who asks someone like me, what watch should they buy? What luxury watch should they buy? Now it's going to be a Mito. Not even a Tudor. I won't even recommend Tudor, because Tudor is a subsidiary of Rolex. So they better be careful. So what do you guys think? Anyway, this is just I really wanted to talk because I got a lot of hate on that Rolex is dead, and they didn't understand maybe where I was coming from. So this is kind of a follow-up. I wanted to enjoy a cigar, and I just wanted to let you guys know why I think that Rolex really needs to tread water lightly, because if not, they're going to end up shooting themselves in the foot and hobbling off into obscurity. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow. I've never said they're going to die tomorrow. I never said they're going to die in the next 5 years or 10 years. But come back in 20, if they do what I think they're going to do, then I think that they're in for a pretty eye-opening surprise. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.